Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's excellent to have you here as always, and thank you for watching. Today we are continuing with our brush gun series with the long-awaited 4570 episode. Now, this is a unique opportunity because I had intended to use traditional 4570 ammunition for today's video, but it looks to me like, unfortunately, I'm not going to get my ammunition order that has the 4570 on it. So, we're going to have to do it with what we've got on hand. And this is a unique opportunity in that today is the first time that we're going to be testing machine bullets. So we're going to be using some Lehigh Defense all copper machine bullets for today's video. I want to see if a machine bullet performs better than a traditional cup and core bullet or a bonded bullet, something like that. As far as the barrier penetration is concerned, it should, in theory, perform better. But as we can see, brush guns have or at least the traditional definition of brush guns, it's a little bit suspect. We'll get to that after the range session. I have some things that I want to talk about. But before we go to the range, if you guys haven't seen the caliber that you want to see tested, then make sure you leave a comment down below. I do tally them to figure out what we're going to do next. As you can see, we're having trouble finding some of the ammunition, so that can be a thing if it's a really niche loading, as well as a gun that shoots it, and it has to be able to accept a scope base, all that sort of stuff, so we can shoot very accurately. There's more than just borrowing a rifle from Jimmy down the road type thing. So there's some things, but we're going to do our best. Speaking of guns, in today's video, we're going to be using this guy right here. This is the Henry X, and we have a full video out on the Henry X. It's changed a little bit, both since we did the original video and since the filming of the range session of today's video. It has the Midwest Industries M-Lock rail on it. That just came in yesterday, so that has been added between what you're going to see from the range and what we're going to do right now. And then also, for use in today's video, it has the brand spanking new XS scope base on it. And that also includes the use of a optional ghost ring. I'm not going to claim official credit for this right here, but I'm going to talk about it really quick. So a few months ago, when I knew that I was going to do the 4570 project, I saw these things online, and I'm like, hey, do you guys make them for Henrys? And XS says, no, we don't currently make them from Henrys, and we're not entirely sure that we're going to. I'm like, hey, you guys ought to reach out to Henry and get some market data from them to see if it's commercially viable. And then, lo and behold, a few months later, here we go. At the peril of sounding like a Henry shill, here goes. When XS said that they were going to look into making this rail and see if it was viable to do so, I knew that they were going to make it. Because if you look at the market data, Henry spanks the ever-living crap out of their competition, even before they added the side gate to the gun. And the reason that is quite simply, if you crack this gun open and any of its competition and put them on the table, there's no way that you can compare them. The fit and finish, the quality of build, all that sort of stuff, all lands solidly in the Henry's favor. The only reason that someone would prefer like a Marlin or any of the other competition out there is either they've spent exorbitant amount of money custom doing it, as in they've taken one off the shelf and sent it to somebody who does custom work on it, in which case it costs way more than this gun, or the other end of the spectrum, they wanted a cheaper gun. And that's simply what it comes down to, is that the Henrys do command a price. And it's, again, if you look at the customer service side of stuff, I've had an opportunity to speak to some of the people at Henry. Yeah, cool, you guys finally added the side gate on the gun. Now, why is it so expensive? You can't make everybody happy. But that's the skinny on that situation. I know that was a tangent. Let's go ahead and go to the range and see how those copper spuns do versus our barriers. So this is 0. We started down here, and then I overcorrected, and then this guy, and then this 2-shot group. I would really like to get this better, but I'm ammunition limited. I thought I had more of this stuff, but apparently I don't. So to be able to do this test, we're gonna have to just roll with that 0. I don't know, you guys saw how bad that was. Usually it doesn't take that much to get it on, but I don't remember what I used this scope on last time. It definitely wasn't 4570 though. And because we are ammunition limited, we're gonna skip right to Briars, because I want to make sure that we have enough ammunition to do all the important ones. We're going to have to skip the little shoot things, because for the most part we've demonstrated that at this point they probably don't matter as much unless you're shooting a really, really crappy cartridge. I'm pretty sure that these are going to outperform those anyway. So we're going to go right to Briars and see what happens. At least one decent sized Briar, and it looks like this one was nicked as well, just above it. Round two, after some replenishment. Definitely two that time. So destroyed that one and then went through that one right there. First shot, second shot. Now we do have some difference here. Obviously this one was pretty close to our original, and then this one deviated a little bit. But if you look at it, in previous tests we have said that if it stayed inside the circle, then we're gonna call it no deviation, or at least no deviation that we should really care about at 50 yards after hitting the medium. So I think it's safe to say that while there is a little bit of movement going on, we can move on to some actual sticks. Moving on to sticks in earnest. All right, so check it out. These are what I want to see. So these two are previous from the Briars, and then these two are from the branches. And I want you to look very closely at those holes. Notice that the ones on the top corner from the Briars are pretty much nice and round. The ones from the sticks, the branches, are definitely not round. And of course, the moment you've all been waiting for, the tree test, because the 450 Bushmaster group exists, and they think that brush guns should be able to shoot through trees. Sorry, Lance. Pretty sure that's closer than any of the other tests that we did. And I also shot that at 50 yards. Unfortunately, I'm out of ammunition, so I can't confirm that that's legit or not. Okay, so some interesting results. Now, disclaimer, you should not be shooting through trees at game animals. It's just not a thing. Do not do that, okay? Here's the thing. Up to this point, there have been really two definitions that I have been aware of as far as brush guns are concerned. The one that we've been testing, and then the second one. So the one that we've been testing is that a brush gun is a caliber that can blow through brush and be able to be unaffected or relatively unaffected by that brush and still be able to make the hit on the game animal. And again, that's what we've been testing. The secondary definition that has been kind of floating around is the internet for some time is that it's a handy rifle that allows you to work in close quarters type thing, because you've got, especially in the Midwest, we've got lots of very dense brush, lots of multiflora rows and all that sort of stuff. So it's a short, lightweight, handy, compact gun that doesn't get hung up on everything. And that makes a lot of sense to me as well. Since the starting of this testing, a third definition has emerged in the comment section, and I have previously not thought about it this way. And I'm not saying that this emerged as a result of what we're doing, but it's definitely become more prolific every single time we do one of these episodes. And maybe it was laying latent, and then it's being, the people who subscribe to that definition are being drawn out. Part of the second definition, which is a handy rifle that is for use in close quarters type thing and dense brush, chambered in a high damage yield caliber that is also easily defeated by brush, which is the exact antithesis of what the other people think a brush gun is. And actually, I would say that this is probably closer to the truth, given what we've seen. The idea being that, especially in my environment, the longest shots that I can achieve trying hard is about 1,000 yards in my part of Ohio. And you can get a little bit longer if you go to some specific locations, but it's pretty difficult to get a really, really long shot. Also, while we are rural in most of Ohio, by rural, I'm not talking like Montana rural. I'm talking like, hey, you're going to have 500-600 yards between you and the next residence type thing. And also, the brush is going to be very high, very dense, hard to see through type thing. And you may not be able to properly identify your backdrop, which is not a good practice. Just throwing that out there. Never a good idea to violate any of the firearm safety rules. But the chances of you being out in a gully somewhere and not actually being able to see the topography are pretty high if you're in the brush. The idea of having a caliber that will get the job done at close range with your quarry, say a deer or something like that. But should you get a pass through or miss the target, will pretty much be knocked down by the brush. And I think that that's where we're going to start taking the testing from here on out, is looking at some of those calibers, because while we have looked at some up to this point, we haven't been able to, again, use the traditional loadings. We've kind of used the best case scenario to try to get through the brush. Now let's see if we can determine if there's a loading or a type of bullet that we can use that is going to shred itself and basically disintegrate when they start encountering brush. They still do good damage on target, but are designed, or maybe not designed, but end up defeating themselves once they come in contact with a hard object like a stick or a thicket or something like that. So they're not carrying through and potentially hitting structures and hunters and, passersby and things like that, which are the types of things that we have to deal with here in southeastern Ohio. Anyway, that is our video on 4570 and specifically on machine bullets. Interesting results. Again, please sound off in the comment section down below if you haven't seen your caliber yet, and we'll do our best to get to it. And if you feel so inclined, you don't want to see any more calibers or anything like that, if you just want to help out with the algorithm, then you can leave a comment in the comment section down below. It does help out. And if you're shy and you don't want to leave a comment, I understand that as well. There's a whole bunch of other buttons that you can push that help out, not as much as a comment, but one of those buttons is a share button. It definitely helps out. You can put it on all the FUD forums. I really, really appreciate it. I'm sure that those guys will just absolutely lose their gourds over that. And if you feel so inclined, then you can support the VSO Gun Channel directly by either checking out our affiliates page, where if you buy something, we get paid, or directly by looking at the Patreon and Subscribe Star pages, where I definitely don't post any extra content. I'm working on an OnlyFans page.